Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Here he is. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Yamuna Tiravanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 18th day of June 2025 in San Diego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 4, entitled Transcendental Knowledge, text 39 on page 225. Okay. Shraddha Valapate Jnanam Tatparak Sangyatendriyaha Jnanam Labdva Param Shantim Achedena Digachati Shraddha Valapati Jnanam Tatparak Sangyatendriyaha Jnanam Lubdva Padam Shantim Achidena Digacchati Shraddha Valapati Jnanam Tatparak Sangyatendriyaha Jnanam Lubdva Padam Shantim Achidena Digacchati. Go ahead, tell us. Shraddha Valapati Jnanam Tatparak Sangyatendriyaha Jnanam Lubdva Param Shantim Achidena Digacchati. Shraddha Valapati Jnanam Tatparak Sangyatendriyaha Jnanam Lubdva Param Shantim Achidena Digacchati. Do you want to chant, Bhagavan? Shraddha Valapati Jnanam Tatparak Sangyatendriyaha Jnanam Lubdva Param Shantim Achidena Digacchati. Get a book with 225, page 225. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Word by word meanings. Oh, anyone online? Is there anyone online? Okay.
Ladies.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. Ladies, please chant. Go ahead, Ami. Shraddha Valapati Jnanam Tatparak Sangyatendriyaha Jnanam Lubdva Param Shantim Achidena Digacchati. Shraddha Valapati Jnanam Tatparak Sanghitendriyaha Jnanam Lubdva Param Shantim Achidena Digacchati. Not yet. Okay. Just want to cover my bases. All right, word by word. Shraddhavan, a faithful man or human being. Labate achieves jnanam, knowledge, tat padaha, very much attached to it. You see where we are? Page 225. Sangyata, controlled, indriyaha, senses, jnanam, knowledge, labdva, having achieved, param, transcendental, shantim, peace, achidena, very soon, adigacchati, attains. Translation. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. Purport. Such knowledge and Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person who believes firmly in Krishna. One is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness he can attain the highest perfection. This faith is attained by the discharge of devotional service and by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. Over and above this, one should control the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So here Krishna mentions faith again, and he will mention again in the next verse also. So I think we discussed last time about faith, how important faith is. There is a wonderful verse near the beginning of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in which Rupa Goswami gives these steps. It's like a ladder from Shraddha to Prema. It's very nice. And he quotes it in one of these purports, but I guess not in the one that in this chapter. So it begins with Adhau Shraddha. Adhau Shraddha tatak sarusanga bhajana kriya tato anarta nibrisa tato nishta ruchistata tata sakti tata bhava tata prema vyujantati sadhakanam ayam premna bhavet krama. I may have missed a word or two there in the Sanskrit. So it begins with this word Shraddha, Adhau Shraddha. In the beginning, in order to even enter into the house of bhakti, as Prabhupada would say, one needs to have preliminary faith. Now this isn't the firm faith that's mentioned later in the verse under the word nishta, but faith enough to come into the association of devotees. Now in today's age, that may mean you're sitting in Montana somewhere and you've gotten a book when your trip to Chicago at the airport, and it's kind of interesting. And so when you go to your computer, you hit the right keys and you go to a Hare Krishna site. That's your sadhu sangha, preliminary sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha means to get the association of devotees who are, best is a pure devotee, but any sincere devotee who can, knows the principles of Krishna consciousness. And to hear, that's the thing. Ado Shuddha Tatak Sadhu Sangha, the bhajana kriya. And then when one hears and associates and reads and participates, then you think, well, why shouldn't I try the process? It's so easy. I can just chant this mantra. I just memorize it in 15 seconds. You see? And so that's the key step. Bhajana kriya means chiefly chanting Hare Krishna. From that chanting, both in japa and in kirtan, the enthusiasm for practicing the other parts of devotional service grow. So Adhau Shraddha Tatak Sadhu Sangha and bhajana kriya. So now you're chanting Hare Krishna, but you're still working and you're at home, and you're like this. But the chanting is so powerful that if you chant a little sincerely, 2 rounds a day. This is how I started, 2 rounds a day, and then that'll keep your interest up. You'll be fascinated by the Bhagavad Gita, whereas before you were chanting, your mind wasn't clean enough. The cleansing process hasn't taken. So bhajana kriya, and the process of bhajana kriya, beginning with chanting, but also including other things, the cleansing process, anarta nivritti. Anartas are all these unwanted desires and thoughts and fears and things in the heart that keep us bound to this world and obscure even if you have enough of them, then you can't really get enough faith in Krishna consciousness. It just seems like some crazy philosophy. But if you're up to the point of chanting and practicing, then the anartas are going away. And what are the anartas in the form of? Basically, desires for things other than Krishna. All of these material desires that we have, they're taking us here and taking us there. Doubts, fears, anything but shanti. Notice how shanti comes in here, the peace. So now you're practicing anarta nivritti syat. And then somewhere along the way there needs to be initiation. That was stressed in text 34. Tad vidi padipatena padipashena sevya. The need to approach a realized soul and to surrender, to ask questions, to serve, and to receive the knowledge. And then you can get the knowledge. So that's important. So you've taken it, you initiated, and you're going, and as you go on, your nartas are cleared, and then you come to the point of nishta, which is firm faith, as defined by Lord Chaitanya in his teachings to Sanatana Goswami, and as actually quoted here, although he doesn't give attribution, about the definition of real faith. Shraddha shabde vishwas kohe sudridha nishchoy Krishna bhakti korle sarva karma krita hoy. Real faith, firm faith, nishta, is that Shraddha shabde vishwas kohe, a firm conviction, unshakable. Shraddha vishwas kohe sudridha. Sudridha means very firm. You can't be dissuaded at this point. That what? Krishna bhakti korli sarva karma kritahor. That just by practicing the principles of Krishna consciousness, all my aspirations in life will be fulfilled. I don't have to say, okay, I did my bhakti, now let me do something else. No, everything can be subsumed on the bhakti, even your work that you're doing to sustain yourself. You're doing it's okay. A portion of this fruit that I get, money that I get, is going to be given to the temple, and I'm supporting a household in which we have a little altar there, and we're offering everything. So everything is part of that effort to serve Krishna. So that's nishta. Now, as this is progressing, and we reach the stage of nishta, your ruchi for everything related to Krishna is increasing. Your taste. It's a sign of advancement, because that obliterates your taste for material pleasures. And to the point where Yamunacharya, you remember his kingly days of enjoying, his harem, whatever, and he would just, he'd curl his lips in spite at the thought, probably spit at the thought. You become really distasteful. Where is that? Is that on the altar? Can we turn it off? Okay. So then that ruchi is increasing. Tata ruchi tada sakte, and that matures into attraction for Krishna. You become personally attracted to Krishna. He's so beautiful and so kind. He's helped you, And you're eager to hear more and more about him. Read Krishna book. Let's read some Krishna book. Prabhu, come on, let's read Krishna book. So that's asakti, which matures into bhava, actual ecstasy, which matures into prema. It's described like you have a vat of sugarcane juice, and you want to refine it, so you put some heat under there and you start stirring it, and it becomes thicker and thicker into molasses, and then thicker and thicker, and finally it hardens into rock candy, and that's pure prema. So from Shraddha to prema, that's what this is. So this verse begins with Shraddha. The more that you're cultivating this knowledge, the more faith you get, because it's being confirmed. Also, I'd like to once again quote that verse about the importance of association with sadhus, because that's in the thing. Satam prasangan, mama virya sambido. This is Kapila Dev speaking to his mother Devahuti. He's teaching, very beginning of his teachings. There's 8 verses about the importance of sadhu sangha, and he defines what a sadhu is and how you should associate. And the middle, right at the middle of these 8 verses, there's this most key verse that's almost like a description of what Prabhupada had in mind when he founded the Hare Krishna movement. It's a society where you associate, right? Satam prasangan mama virya sambido bhavanti rit karna rasayana kata tadjoshanad ashu apavargavartmani shraddha rati bhaktu anukramishati. So here Kapila Deva is saying, by this process of associating with sadhus, and it's not just sangha, but it's prasanga. It means prolonged, and it means sincere and intense, Tatam prasangan mama virya samvido. You're going to hear conversations, talks of my glories, of my activities. This is Krishna speaking in the form of Kapila Deva. Bhavanti. Now, what's the nature of these talks by realized devotees that you're going to be drinking in? Bhavanti rit karna rasayana kata. That kata is like a life-giving elixir for the ears and the heart. Very nourishing. That's what this whole movement is about. And further on he goes, rit karna rasayana tadjoshanat. By practicing this, simply getting together and glorifying, the epitome of which is Harinam Sankirtan, right? I chant, you hear, you chant, I hear. And if we're both chanting sincerely, then we have to dance. We have to start dancing. Sign of ecstasy. So this is the apavargavartmani. This is the path of liberation from material entanglement. See? So ashu, very quickly, you develop along this path of liberation, shraddha. This is your shraddha is increasing. Shraddha, rati, bhakti. Attraction for Krishna, and bhakti here means prema bhakti, pure love. Anukramishati, step by step. So this is the essence of this movement. Somehow, what is the temple? The temple is a wonderful venue in which there's no other influence but Krishna consciousness. You look on the walls, it's painting of Krishna. If you hear, not long you'll hear the kirtan coming from the kitchen, and eventually it'll come from here. And of course, the deity is, everything is related to Krishna and is designed to remind you of Krishna and give you opportunity to serve Krishna. So that's the essence of this movement, and he's describing now the faith which will increase, and by this knowledge. The whole chapter is transcendental knowledge. So knowledge is not static. We act according to what we know. I get up in the morning, and suddenly your dream is over. Now I know I got to get going and work. And that means, I got to get cleaned up, I got to do all these things, right? So knowledge, if you get knocked on the head and you can't remember who you are, what should I do? I don't know what to do, So knowledge, once you have the knowledge, I'm a spirit soul, I'm not this body, and I'm part and parcel of Krishna. And by great good fortune, he's full of compassion, Dina Bandhu, he's friend of he's not some angry God, vengeful God, We don't believe in that. He may be angry at Hiranyakashipu, but if you're his devotee, then he loves you, like Prahlad. So it all depends on knowledge. When you read about Krishna and you read the words of the realized soul and you read Krishna's words, you're actually associating with Krishna. He's there in his name, he's there in his words, the Bhagavad Gita, he's there in his devotees. So it's actually Krishna who's doing the purifying. Purifying of what? Purifying of the material desires and filling your heart with knowledge. What does he say in the 15th chapter? Sarvasya chaham vidisandivishto mattak smriti jnanam apohanangcha. That I'm in everyone's heart as a super soul. Welcome. Yeah. We're going to have a Bhagavad Gita class till 8:15, then we'll have darshan and kirtan. Is that okay? Yeah, please. Yeah, you can sit over here and you can sit over here. Anyway, over there. And we have many more books, so don't worry. And you have your own book. Or you can sit on the bench, fine. Just give her a book. We're on page 225. So, that's what Krishna is talking about, the great blessings of transcendental knowledge. And Srila Prabhupada, following his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who famously said, in a walk by Radha Kund, Prabhupada had his son with him, he was still a householder. If you ever get any money, print books. And Prabhupada followed that, Even when he didn't have any money, he was printing BTG, Back Together magazine, and somehow or other. He printed the first volume, a friend, because he was distributing, basically Bhaktisiddhanta instructed him to preach in English, and ideally you should be in an English-speaking country. But Prabhupada didn't get to that country right away, so he was in India, but he would print Back to Godhead in English and distribute it himself, and he was going like that. Then a friend told him, these magazines are very nice, but people won't keep them very much. They're not very, sturdy. So better if you can print a book, a hardbound book. So Prabhupada took that seriously, and he said, what better book to print than Srimad Bhagavatam? Now that's a big book, but he started. The first canon, to print 3 volumes of the first canon took him 4 years. Because he had no one to help him. He was doing the proofreading, the editing, collecting. And so eventually he had those 3 books. And that was in 1965. It took him from 61 to 65, like that. And he said later, and even I think in the purport there's somewhere in the first canon, that I put everything here in because I don't know how many more of these volumes I can print. So even... there's also a very nice phenomenon. The second chapter of the first canto, the sages in Naimisharanya are listening to Sutta Goswami, who's relating what he heard when he was there in the audience when Shukadev Goswami first spoke to Maharaj Pariksit. So in those days, they had incredible memories. He was able to memorize the whole thing, and he was repeating it to the sages. And so they asked him, well, what is that dharma? Because dharma is such a key factor. If we're not performing our sanatan dharma, we may have some external dharma that we do, but that's not going to help us to regain our awareness of our actual nature. So the sages ask, what is that dharma that one can perform in order that the soul can become truly blissful and happy, in this world? So he begins, he says, very nice question. What is that? I forget the Sanskrit, but he's phrasing the question. Then he begins the answer. This is right, second chapter, first canon. Savai pongsang paro dharma yato bhaktir hokshaje. Ahaituki apratayata yayatma suprasidati. So that dharma, now dharma means some process that we perform that is supposed to improve us somehow, you hope. It may be a dharma that's simply to perform the proper sacrifices to go to heavenly planets, that's the material part of the Vedas. But this is the dharma that the soul can actually be eternally happy. So the question is, so the answer is, that the dharma is supreme. Savai pungsang paro dharma yato bhakti adhokshaje. That engenders the development in one's heart of devotional service to adhokshaja. Now adhokshaja is a name for Krishna that's often used when you're talking to beginners who don't know anything about Krishna consciousness. You're not talking about Krishna dancing in the forest, Adhokshaja means the Transcendental Lord. Akshaja is knowledge that's born of your sense perception. That's that transcendental knowledge. That's the ascending process. But he pushes that down. He's transcendental. Adha, Akshaja. We can't perceive him with our materially contaminated senses and mind, But you have to have enough faith with association with realized souls that he's there and that he's the one who should worship. And so you're practicing a dharma which engenders your bhakti, your devotion to that person. And that's what our bhakti yoga is, Vaidhi bhakti. Here, this lady's side, and we have a book for you. You can take his book and he'll get another one. Page 225. Yeah, it's a good spot. Okay, so just to finish this little disquisition. So then he goes on, and what's the effect of practicing that bhakti? So he says, Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayat Yashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayadahoikam. We're back to jnana. That's the subject of this chapter. So by practicing devotional service to Vasudeva, which is another name for Krishna, Krishna son of Vasudeva. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam. We will quickly produce detachment from this material world and the pleasures of it. And transcendental knowledge will automatically start manifesting in your heart. Those two elements, essential, two pillars of bhakti, knowledge and detachment. And one leads to another. Even on the material plane, I always give this example. I'm so old. I think I'm older than even you. I'm 78. Are you 78? Not yet. Anyway, I was there when I don't know about India, but they, cigarettes smoking was very prominent when I was growing up. People were smoking. I started smoking when I was about 15, because everyone else was doing it. I had to try to do it. I got to get this now. Finally, I'm smoking. Big deal. So, but then shortly thereafter, they started putting on the packages this little notice, warning: cigarette smoking can be hazardous to your health. I think that after a big fight, they said, okay, we'll stay. Cigarette smoking is hazardous to your health. So that's knowledge. If you buy the cigarette, right? All right, I want to smoke a cigarette pack. So I buy this pack of cigarettes, and I read that. The idea is that, well, that'll maybe convince you to throw the pack of cigarettes away. You can see why the cigarette makers fought tooth and nail to try to prevent that from going, but there was a law. You have to do this because it's so dangerous. So that's knowledge leading to vairagya, to detachment. Well, now that I know that it's hazardous to my health, why should I do it? Heck with that. That's the whole idea. It rarely happens. But how does that pertain to us? Well, so much of our books, the Bhagavad Gita is full of it. If you simply act according to your material desires, material mentality, without any reference to God and Krishna, and your senses are out of control, then you're going to suffer like anything. Eventually you'll get old, sick, and you'll die here. And you may actually, if you're sinful enough, lose the human form of life. So if you know that, and you believe it, then you have to, well, how can I act so that doesn't happen? All right, read this book, and then try, here's some beads. Now try chanting this mantra. It's a wonderful mantra, come down from the ages. All right, let me try it, you see. So that little bit of faith in this person who's giving you the book and whatever and inviting you, that opens you up. And Krishna's in your heart, and he's encouraging you. Yes, this is great. And so that knowledge, and if you really start chanting, you will become detached from these things. Anyone who chants seriously can feel it. I don't want to do that anymore. You know, there's a nice kirtan going on. It's Sunday night. Let me go to the temple. You know, I just get, you know, here's the choice. If you pass by here, now we have such a nice entrance, it may attract more people. But you can keep on walking, and there's always a bar there. Since I've been here 35 years, there's been 3 or 4 bars in that same place. Somehow they don't do so well. But it's, you know, so that's a choice. And once you do that, you'll all forget all about this place. And then you walk by and say, oh, Hare Krishna, those guys are crazy. Let me go in there. And the guests who come here say, we wouldn't go into the bar in a million years. We know that, you know. So knowledge leads to detachment. Vairagya and Vidya, and there's a famous verse I'll share with you. It's such a wonderful verse about Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna himself, who appeared 535 or so years ago now, in order to, for 2 reasons, 2 main reasons. One, he had his own personal reason. You know, Krishna had his own personal reason to come as Lord Chaitanya with the complexion and the mood of Srimati Radharani, so that he could worship himself and find out all the bliss that all the devotees are getting, especially her. By, you know, he wanted to see his own beauty through her eyes, like that. And he wanted to experience from her point of view what it's like to be loved by him. So this is very esoteric. But the external reason was to spread the Sankirtan movement, because he's compassion personified, right? Krishna is full of mercy. So he knows we're suffering without that. So he comes and, you know, in a beautiful story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, you can read it, you know, how he started from a little child, even his very birth. He timed it, right? So he appeared during a lunar eclipse when everybody chants Hare Krishna and bathes in the Ganges, right? So with him came the holy name. So that's Krishna's mercy on us. And here, just so the beautiful verse written by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, describing Lord Chaitanya, Vairagya Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga, Shiksharta Meka, Purushak Purana, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sharir Dhari, Kripambudeyas Tamaham Papadye. You've heard that one before, you know it. Very famous verse. Now, it's interesting, Lord Chaitanya, when everyone would call him Vishnu or anything, he would shut his ears. Oh, you should never say that about a human being. You know, he tried to deny that he was God. At one point, he revealed it. You know, at many points, but generally he would do that. So Sarvabhauma Govinda, who's Lord Chaitanya's servant, he knew that Lord Chaitanya would rip up the palm leaves as soon as he saw it. There were 2 verses, because he didn't like that. So before he gave him the verses, he wrote them on the outside of the Gambhir. I don't know if whoever's been to Jagannath Puri. They're preserving that little Gambhir kutir where Lord Chaitanya lived there. And I had great good fortune in 1982, I think it was, to visit Jagannath Puri and I saw that Gambhir. So on the outside he wrote the verses. And Lord Chaitanya ripped them up, but the devotees all saw them and they memorized them, and now it's in the CC, immortalized. So that verse, I mean, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksha Purushak Purana, the same eternal person, Krishna, has now appeared in this world in order to teach Bhakti Yoga to himself, characterized by detachment and knowledge. Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shikshartam, for the sake of Shiksha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari, he's taken the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kripambudeyas Tamaham Papadya. He's an ocean of mercy, and I take shelter of him, like that. So that's our heritage, our legacy is left, and Srila Prabhupada is very much part of that line, and he's took so much trouble to come and give us this knowledge, so we should take advantage of it. Okay, any questions on text 39? Oh, yeah.
Krishna, I have just a question on the text. The first word Shraddhaval, I see there's a symbol.
Little mark over there.
Yeah.
The Chandra Bindu.
What does it do to the pronunciation, or what does it
Nothing
mean?
that I could ever figure out.
Yeah.
Just you know.
Pronunciation is M.
M?
Like
Shraddhavam?
Shraddhabalam. Bangla. Bang.
Okay, I'm going to have to confirm that because I never heard that before.
Yeah.
I just always said Shraddhaval Labhate Jnanam. But I will investigate it and I will confirm or deny your understanding.
This is above Ba, right?
We're talking about the Chandra Bindu, little tiny thing over the L, last L in Shraddhaval.
Yeah.
You see? Anyway, it's not so important for us, but I will try to confirm. We'll figure it out. All right, text 40. Let's do it. Agyascha shadadhanascha. All right, let's try again. Agyascha shadadhanascha. Sankshayatma vinashyati. Nayam lokos tinaparo. Nasukang sankshayatmanaha. Contrast between 39, the Shradhaval, one who is faithful, and those who have no faith, and who are fools because they don't have the faith. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Purport. Out of many standard and authoritative revealed scriptures, the Bhagavad Gita is the best. Persons who are almost like animals have no faith in or knowledge of the standard revealed scriptures. And some, even though they have knowledge of or can cite passages from the revealed scriptures, have actually no faith in these words. And even though others may have faith in the scriptures like the Bhagavad Gita, they do not believe in or worship the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Such persons cannot have any standing in Krishna consciousness. They fall down. Out of all the above-mentioned persons, those who have no faith and are always doubtful make no progress at all. Men without faith in God and His revealed word find no good in this world, nor in the next. For them there is no happiness whatsoever. One should therefore follow the principles of revealed scriptures with faith, and thereby be raised to the platform of knowledge. Only this knowledge will help one become promoted to the transcendental platform of spiritual understanding. In other words, doubtful persons have no status whatsoever in spiritual emancipation. One should therefore follow in the footsteps of great acharyas who are in the disciplic succession and thereby attain success. So again, this is bringing us back to the principle of faith. Because what is the foundation of our faith? I've always found that in practice, when you read about the wonderful lives of the previous acharyas, and of course, Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and so many others, Lord Chaitanya's associates, and you realize, well, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I mean, he was a towering intellect, wonderful devotee, pure devotee. I mean, he had a very responsible position as a minister a judge, in the government, and he believed all of this. He wrote his own commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, absolute faith, and Srila Prabhupada. So who am I to say, nah, doesn't make any sense to me. I can't see Krishna. Where is this Krishna? In other words, it's just foolishness. If you're in the grips of that doubtfulness, and which is very much nourished by associating with other doubters, you see, then you're in a very difficult position. Because the first element is faith, and it's being stressed here so much, right? What is it? Agyas, the fools who have ashradhana, they have no faith. That's composed to the Shradhaval in the 39. You see, this faith is being stressed here. So that faith is so important to attain and preserve. That faith can be lost through offending devotees, through offending the holy name, offenses. Because the faith is something that's based on your knowledge of, at least partial knowledge of the truth, and you're being blessed with that faith by association and by doing service and being sincere. And any kind of offense, or allowing yourself to be swept away by some material attraction, you see, can make it very difficult to advance. Because what happens, and I've seen it over my career, I've been doing this for over 50 years, is that someone who was very enthusiastic in Krishna consciousness and was even a leader, not one of the famous leaders, but I was working on Back to Godhead magazine, and he was the editor-in-chief, he was a senior devotee. But somehow, I'm not sure exactly what, I won't go into detail, but he committed serious offenses. And this, I'll never forget this experience. I don't. How many of you have been to the Los Angeles Temple, Westside Avenue? Okay, yeah, we're so close that it's so it's very, a very wonderful temple. The deities are so beautiful. They've been here, installed since the early 70s, even before this temple. So I had the great good fortune to be in New Dwarka from 75 to late 78, almost 4 years. And, I'd always go to Mangal Artik, and this devotee would also be there. And I remember once I came and I was standing, right in front of Rukmini Dwarkadish, and chanting, and he was standing in front of me, but I was looking at him, and he couldn't look at the deities. He had done some infraction, I don't know what it was, seriously. And he was looking here, looking there, looking here, and he looked very distressed. And it was bracing for me to see that. Later I learned some of the details I won't go into. And later he left the movement, and actually he was part of a suit trying to sue the movement for millions of dollars. Eventually, this is what can happen. So the faith is, and your in the teachings and in the process, and your willingness to activate that faith into actually doing things and not doing other things, which is the essence of any discipline. You do this, and you avoid this, and this. So therefore, this is a precious commodity, that a quality, to have faith. Just to have enough faith to come to Bhagavad Gita class, I mean, where would I be if no one had that faith? I try not to do anything deviant in here. And I have some people outside listening. So that's the foundation, Adhar Shraddha Tatak Sangha. That faith that opens you up to hear and to take in the knowledge and to serve. And remember the formula: surrender, service, and inquiry. And approach the spiritual master. So we should try to maintain that. Okay, 41. Yoga sanyasta karmanam, jnana sanchinna sanshayam, atmabantam na karmani, nibadnanti dhananjaya. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. Purport. One who follows the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, as it is imparted by the Lord, the personality of Godhead himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as a part and parcel of the Lord, in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above bondage to action. So that bondage to action, or rather bondage resulting from fruit of action, let's put it that way, that's what we were trying to become free from, that bondage. Because in the conditioned state, it's like very graphically described that there's all these knots in your heart binding into this material world, Hridaya Granthi. And the result not of only what we've done this life, but previous life also. We carry those with us, So Krishna consciousness is a process of cutting those knots and tying knots to Krishna. In other words, you can't give up activity. You can't give up attraction. That's completely artificial, to try to just merge into the absolute and become one, and no more birth, old age, disease, and death. But the thing is, that's unnatural for us, because we're part and parcel of Krishna. We have our eternal senses, personality, form, our swarup, which has been covered for millions and millions of births, but it's in there still. So to try to just merge into the absolute, there's a very graphic verse describing that. The demigods are in the dungeon of Kamsa. They're hiding there. They're offering prayers to Krishna in the womb of Devaki. He's about to take birth in the 10th canto. So one of the famous verses, they say, they're praising the devotees. Then they say, Ye and ye ravindakse vimukta maninas, tvayasta bhava avishuddha buddhaya, aruha kutrena parang padang tata patantyado anadvita yushmarangriya. Besides these wonderful devotees, O lotus-eyed Lord, I'm sorry, Lord with lotus feet. Yeah, Adabindaksha, yeah, lotus-eyed Lord. Vimuktamaninas. They may think that they're liberated. Who are they? But they're averse to serving you because their intelligence has not really been purified properly. They're in the impersonal side. So what happens? Aruha, they rise, aruha trainer, by very severe austerities. Because can you try to imagine what it would be like, those who have practiced a little Krishna consciousness. And you can feel, part of the benefits is vairagya. The things that used to be you're attached to, don't even imagine enjoying anymore. I have the first example. For 25 years, I've lived across the street from McDonald's. Now, I've never gone in there, nor have I desired to go. But I like to tell the story. I was around when McDonald's first started in the early 60s in America. Yes. I was in a little bowling league. I was about, 14, 15. And every Saturday we would go bowling this place. And one day we saw that, they're building something, and it turned out to be a McDonald's there. Oh, great. Before we go bowling, we can go get a, forgive me, cheeseburger and fries, whatever it is. And so we didn't think any of it. This is just a great, So I know it in McDonald's, But there's not the slightest desire that I go in there. I wouldn't go near the place. So that's detachment coming through knowledge. But if you don't develop that by Krishna consciousness, then you remain attached, and you get sick, unnatural the diet, you get diabetes, whatever it is, Oh, I should have just ate more vegetables instead of all this. So anyway, so we're text 40, right? No, text 42. No, we just read 41 now, right? Yeah. So, action. So our actions bind us, you see? You get bound up. You're tightening the knots by fruit of action. It's a syndrome. It can go on for millions of births, Because after all, human life is rare. There's all these lower forms of life, right? Millions and millions of animals. They don't have the opportunity. They're just living out their life, and they can go up, and it's a lot of suffering, a lot of anxiety. I take a morning walk. Sometimes the seagulls come flying in. It's because there's a restaurant I go by, that somehow it's a takeout. They take it out, and a lot of it ends up on the street. So these flock of birds, and I'm just walking. I'm chanting Hare Krishna. I say, "What's that?" They're afraid. Sometimes I give them Hare Krishna and they fly away, but at least they got that. But what can they do? They have no possibility of getting the knowledge. So it's like being in the prison. Gradually you can come up. But so human life is a juncture that we shouldn't waste. What does Lord Chaitanya say? I'll give you this one again. The boat, this human form of life, as an ideal boat for crossing over the ocean of birth and death. Nidehamadyam sulabam sudurlabam plavam sukalpam gurukarnadharam mayanukulyena nabasviteritam puman bhavabdi nataret sa atmaha. So this is Krishna. He's giving us a very graphic description here. So nirdeha means human form of life, human body. Adyam is highly qualified, full of all kinds of facilities, namely the good brain, in the senses. Sulabam, sudurlabam. This is a play on words because these are two opposites. Sulabam means it's easy to get. You're going to keep getting one without doing anything. You come up in cow life and then human life, whatever it is, So you get it. But it's sudurlabam, it's rare. There's only 8 billion of us on this planet, they figure now. You know how many, any meadow you find, there's probably that many blades of grass or near it, and all of them, there's a soul in there, just like us, living out the grass life, and moving up to straw, whatever it is. And so, suladam sudurlam, plavam sukalpam, a very nicely constructed boat, you see, to cross over the ocean of birth and death. But you'd have to have a good caption, Guru Karnadaram. Now, I don't know why the word Karnadara means captain of a ship, but it does. Karna means ear. Anyway, you know what it means? Karnadara? Yeah, but Karna means ear. So how do you get from the ear to the captain?
No, it's the one word.
Karnadar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not
Anyway,
one word.
Okay.
Karna is not separated from the dhara. Karna dhara is one word, and he is the leader, that kind of
Okay.
leader or.
Thank you. All right, so the captain of the ship. So the guru is the captain of the ship. We learned in this chapter, text 34. But you need the favorable winds. There's no motor. It's all, big sails, and it's one of those old big boats like that. So where are the winds? Krishna says, my words in the Bhagavad Gita and others, Maya nukulyena dabasvideritam. Those words I speak, those are so you have the boat, you have the captain, and you have the favorable winds. Then the last line says, Pumam bhavabdim nataret sa atmaha. That human being who does not, with all of these facilities, cross over the ocean, he is atmaha. He is committing spiritual suicide. Of course, you can't kill the soul, but you're wasting a precious chance. So we shouldn't waste that opportunity. We should utilize it. Cultivate transcendental knowledge, cultivate bhakti, and go back to Godhead. Okay, let's see. Okay, 806. Where we did 41, right? We did 42. 42. Okay. Well, that's the last verse. So I don't think we can do justice to that in a few minutes. So we'll finish the chapter Monday, and we'll just have one or two little poems, wind things up. Is that okay? Okay. Let's see if I can remember one that I haven't chanted recently. Well, these are classic. 3 verses. You probably know the Sanskrit. Trinadapi sunichena, tadorapi sahishnana, amanina manadena, kirtaniyak sadaharihi. Does anyone recognize this verse? No? Okay. This is the 4th verse of the 3rd verse of the Shikshastika by Lord Chaitanya. So this verse is a very important verse, because this is the attitude we should have, the mood we should have when we chant Hare Krishna. So he says, more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, to think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. Such qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant His name incessantly until the final hour. You see. Now then he's teaching us how to pray in 2 verses. Nadanang nasundarim kavitam vajagadish kamaye mama janmani janmani shade bhavata bhaktidahai tuki twahi. Wealth and women, followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. Because he's not praying even for liberation. See? Otherwise he wouldn't say future birth. And finally, Ayanandatanu jikinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam budho kripaya tava pada pankaja sitaduli sadashang vichindaya. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for listening.